Happy Memorial Day. As you are grilling out for friends and family and remembering those that have fallen for our country, please geek out with us a little bit. Today, let's chat.
Everybody come on, let's get down. Get down.
It's really cool to have talented musicians as friends that give you really, really cool music for your show. Anybody know a guy rhymes with meek bass?
Meek bass.
Freekbass in the house.
Hello.
Hello. My wife said that I am, how does she phrase it? That I'm out of my league on this panel. It's like an all-star panel. She wasn't kidding. I am. But you guys are personal friends, so that's okay. How we doing? Freekbass, I'll start with you. What's up, buddy? How are you?
Good. It's nice seeing you guys in person. You know, it's like we're text buddies, so it's actually good to see your faces for sure.
That's right. And one of these days we'll be in person.
No, I can't wait.
That's gonna be weird. We've known each other now for years online. We're gonna get in person going, oh my gosh, you're flesh and blood.
Right.
Yeah. Zaki, we have not met in person. I've known you the longest, buddy.
Wow. Yeah, eight more than 8 years, I think, at this point.
I think I missed you in San Francisco once, and then we were going to cross paths in Chicago, but then something happened there. Then maybe you were in Texas at something. Were you like in Austin or something a few years ago, maybe?
I was on my way to the White House. I'm not trying to flex, but I had a layover in Dallas, I believe.
That's right. And we were going to try to make that happen, but
yeah,
there's still plenty of time. All right. And then we have the great Bob Cesca, the best radio voice in radio.
Thank you very much. Yes, I was on my way to Buckingham Palace when I decided to stop.
Oh, Bob, I'm only going to mention this because it ties into our pop culture show here we all do together, and it was public, and just so we'll be very respectful of the situation. But it looks like you have a fan by the name of Luke Skywalker online. I'm pretty jealous.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Talk about mind blowing. That little interaction was just incredible. Given, I mean, men of our generation to interact with Luke Skywalker in any capacity whatsoever is just an incredible thing. I mean, not only is this guy one of the most iconic heroes in any movie of our lifetimes, but also just doing a hell of a job as far as activism, as far as his presence in our politics right now. Just an incredible, heroic actor and activist. I'm constantly blown away by Mark Hamill, and I was just additionally blown away by the fact that I was able to interact with him online and get an invitation to attend a show in Los Angeles. You know, when Luke Skywalker says, "Hey, can you be here for this thing?" You go, "Yes, of course I can."
You're going to be there for that thing, yeah. It looks like we may have lost Zaki briefly for a second, so we'll just kind of keep moving here. It's That's okay. He'll jump back on. Technical difficulties, guys. We're not in our multi-million-dollar studio. So you're going to be there, right? So you guys get to...
Yeah, I think so. It's sexyliberal.com. It's a Sexy Liberal Save the World tour for the Stephanie Miller show. And they get together with, Stephanie gets together with John Fugelsang and Hal Sparks and Frangela, the Frangela comedy duo. And they put on this show, and they're touring with Live Nation this year. So it's many shows, many cities. Stephanie's got a gigantic audience, and it just so happened that Mark Hamill was scheduled to appear at the LA show
it's amazing.
In November. Yeah, and of course, I don't live in Los Angeles. I live in Washington, D.C., so I had no intention of showing up. And then Mark Hamill was like, "Hey, yeah, you want to show up at this thing?" And I said, "No." Well, of course I'm going to. Yes, obviously. I don't care if I have to hang out outside in the alley. I'm just going to, if Mark Hamill says be at this place, I'm going to be at that place. And see, Zaki's coming back, and I'm still talking about it, right? Like, was he going on and on this whole time? Well, someone else asked it. Rick asked another question, Zaki. I just want to be sure that I'm not still talking about
well, and one thing about Hal Sparks that I love, too, is he's the perfect public figure like yourself, Bob.
Oh God, yeah.
That crosses over into geeky pop culture and politics and does both brilliantly. In fact, he's got the wonderful cameo in Spider-Man 2 in the elevator. Yep. It's a fun scene, and then of course he's the lead singer for Nerd Halen. which will tie
and
into...
he does a streaming show twice a day on YouTube called Mega Worldwide, where he just goes through whatever's trending on Twitter, all the latest videos of Trump supporters on Rumble, and just dissects them all. Trump's rallies, he goes through from start to finish and picks those apart. He's doing an incredible public service, and it's all just utterly hilarious because Hal Sparks is a genius.
Yeah, I mean,
is it go live? Is it live?
Yeah, it is live. And
wow,
again, it's like twice a day. Some of those shows are like 5 hours long. They're like epic, like your TikTok streams.
Yeah, that's crazy. Wow, cool.
Your TikTok streams are those of legends now, my friend.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, well, it's a full-time gig, that's for sure.
Zaki, have you seen this on Twitter or Facebook with Freak? He's a TikTok music rock star. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
How many followers do you have now?
I think I'm around 50 or 60, something like that. Yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
look at you. That's
1,000. Yeah. It's a different life. I mean, it really is. It's literally, I'm on there 6 days a week, so it's like that is my life. Yeah,
and
it's late too.
Yeah, you go to bed like...
I'm going to bed more like 5, 6 in the morning all the time. Yeah, so my whole schedule is reversed. Yeah, I'm backwards. Wow. I'm vampire officially now. Yeah,
it's amazing. Well, Zaki, I know you have a million things going on, sir. What do you just share with us? This is kind of like reverse plugs. We're just talking. What are you up to these days?
Wrapping up the summer, the spring semesters at the schools I teach at, which is nice. So a little bit of a breather before, I have summer classes, they start, and then got a couple different podcasts happening, and, just doing my usual writing for the Chronicle and a couple other venues.
Are you going to take your Disney shill money you get, now that you're Rotten Tomatoes, and take your family on vacation?
I mean, it's yeah.
That's a joke, by the way.
For those of you who don't know, I've been accused of being a shill for Disney because I had the temerity to like The Last Jedi and not lose my shit over things I don't like, and I think just as a pathology, I find that fascinating. Like if somebody likes the thing I dislike, obviously they were paid to like it, which, I mean, that just paints a window of some, like, you can't just disagree, you have to be on the take by somebody. I think that just says something about our discourse.
Okay, so Star Wars fandom, as we know online, is wild. I'm going to share a quick story, and this was not planned, but I'm going to make it quick, I promise. I'm getting tacos from a place called Torchy's. If you're in Texas, you know Torchy's. To go last night, and there's I give the gentleman my debit card, and has Darth Vader on it. He goes, "Oh, I love your card. Man, let me tell you about Star Wars. I'm 24 years old. My roommate never watched Star Wars. Took him to see the prequels when they were in the theaters recently." I said, "Oh, wow." He's like, "Yeah, he really started to like them as they moved along and loved Revenge of the Sith." Cool. Then what next? Well, then we watched the Obi-Wan series. "Oh, that's interesting. I see what you're doing here." He goes, yeah. He goes, and then we watched Rogue One last night. He loved it. He goes, "We're going to skip Andor for now and everything, but man, we're going into the original trilogy." It was like this exciting conversation. It was really cool. I was like, fuck, man, I wish I could like be in the room with you guys, be a fly on the wall, and watch the look on his face. And he's experiencing Star Wars for the first time. And then I said, "So then what are you going to do after that? Episode 7? He goes, "Whoa, the sequel trilogy?" He's like, "You don't like that, do you?" I went, "Oh gosh, it's real life. It's like Twitter Star Wars in real life." I go, but what was interesting is that he liked the Disney content. You know what I mean? He liked Disney Plus, but he said, "No, man, they're retconning that. That's not even going to be a thing anymore. It's not even going to be canon."
Oh God!
I go, "Sir, what I can assure you is that that's not happening." I go, "I promise you, there's making a Rey movie. Those are multi-billion-dollar films. Sorry you didn't like them." And I went down this rabbit hole in person, and so I wrote down. Listen, I got to run. Rick Shew, friends from work, let's chat. Make sure it's the Let's Chat. Tune in. Let's hit me up online. Let's talk a little Star Wars because he was such a cool guy. So don't know his name. The dude from Torchies. I hope you're watching right now. And we're going to convince you that you don't have to like something, but they're not retconning the sequel trilogy. But God, it was weird.
How many seconds into it did he say Mary Sue?
No, but that's just it. He didn't say that. He didn't.
Oh,
he wasn't anti. Yeah, he wasn't anti-Disney. That was the wild part. I mean, he loves Ahsoka. He loved Obi-Wan. He loved Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan was woke AF, right? Anyway, all right. So coming out of that,
very quick on Star Wars. I just want to let you guys know I'm so excited. You all have probably been there. I'm late to the game. We are going to Disney World and about 10 days to go to the Star Wars experience, which I'm super excited about.
Oh, so great. Yeah,
awesome.
In fact, there's something there, Bob, I think I sent it to you with, I don't want to look it up and hold the show up, but there's a something Ray oriented, and you hear Daisy Ridley's voice. Apparently she tells the story that's sort of a precursor or a setup for what's coming in her film.
I read the script of that. Yeah. Someone had transcribed it. Yeah, it's really interesting how it's going to lead into the next series of movies, which, by the way, I love that Disney's doing that. It's just like, we're going to, you know what, screw you, all of you guys screaming about Mary Sue's on Twitter and Reddit and so on. We're going to do a whole Ray series, so suck it. Well, I love the balls of Lucasfilm just plowing forward with a great character, a wonderful actor, and just continuing to just double down on what they've done so far.
One of the best podcasts online in the interwebs, Star Wars, is Around the Galaxy. My friend Pete Fletcher hosts that. It's a great podcast. All Star Wars love. Anyway, his response to it was great. Full steam ahead. You know, so to just kind of reinforce your point about
that's a very very good way to put it.
That's right. Well, speaking of Star Wars,
those are going to be movies too, right? Not series, right?
Well,
correct.
Movies for sure.
Yep.
I'm excited. And speaking of Star Wars, good segue. So we compiled an idea here, and I compiled my list, which was our top 5 things that we're anticipating the most that are coming out, whether it's streaming or film or animation or books for that matter, just really kind of anything. Hell, it could be sports. Everybody have their little list? Everybody got theirs? Zaki? I'm gonna run around to Zaki. What do you just tell me? I mean, we can just be real loose with this topic, but what is it you're looking forward to the most that's coming out in the next 6 months to 2 years?
Well, in terms of movies, I'm stuff that's coming up soon. Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm looking forward to seeing. Superman, James Gunn Superman, which I think we're going to be talking about in just a little bit. We already talked about Star Wars. Yeah, I was saying, like, I was talking with Brian, my co-host. I was like, I'm in the mood for Star Wars in a movie theater, like new Star Wars in a movie theater. That's I took my boys to the Phantom Menace a couple weeks ago, and just being in a theater experiencing, I'm like, the Disney Plus stuff is fine, but honestly, if they stop making it tomorrow, I would be okay, as long as I want Star Wars in the movies. I feel like that's what it's for.
I do too. And if one show I could remove from the Disney Plus and put it in a film would be Obi-Wan. Honestly.
Oh, absolutely. I think it was a miscalculation, a major miscalculation turning that into a series. It should have been a movie, without a doubt.
When you have legacy characters like that, when you have Ewan McGregor back, when you have Hayden Christensen back.
Yep.
It was a good show, and I understand they were up against a lot of obstacles with COVID as well on set and everything else, but still that should have waited. But what was the first one you listed? Deadpool.
Deadpool and Wolverine.
I keep forgetting about that. And it looks amazing. Are you guys, is Deadpool on y'all's list by chance?
Oh yeah. I got tickets already. Yeah.
Same.
It got crowded out of my list. I don't have it on.
I don't
need. But that's only by default. That's only because there were so many other things. It just got edged out. Yeah.
I'm going to go out on a limb here, not to jump ahead on Zaki's list, but something tells me that Joker is going to be on Freekbass's list. But
really?
Yeah,
I didn't think I'm a Joker fan.
All right, Zaki, what else, man? Superman, I thought we'd pull up the suit here in a few minutes, and hell, let's just do that now. There's no rhyme or reason to the show.
You gonna wear it, Rick? You've got a picture of it. I thought you had it there with you.
No, I wore it well in 1998 and 2005. That ship is sailed, my friend. Yeah. Let's see here. Bear with me, guys. So hopefully this pulls up right. I just want everybody just to see. Oh, it did. Can everybody see that clearly?
Absolutely.
All right. Not to just obsess over this, because doing 3-hour podcasts on an initial drop of just someone's costume, just a still from the film. But Zaki, since this is still kind of your turn here, and you're probably you and Chris Clow are two of the biggest Superman fans I know anyway. What do you think of this picture? What feelings come out in you when you see this?
I'm cautiously optimistic, which I think that's whenever I see the pre-release still, that's my default position. I like, it appears that he's wearing the red trunks, which I'm happy about. I'm not as big a fan of the high collar, although that, you know, that is from the New 52 era, so it's not like they're just making it up. I would need to see some more images, but I think just as a choice for the role, David Cornsweet is terrific. I think he's a great choice, and I certainly like James Gunn's sensibilities. So it's still optimism, even as I'm like, you know, some of the aesthetic choices from what we see in this still don't blow me away.
Yeah, and Bob, I know you're a big, and forgive me if I'm mischaracterizing you here, but I've known you long enough now. You're kind of big on aesthetic. You really kind of hone in on costumes and
love the costumes. Yeah, I'm really into costumes. Yeah. Okay,
cool. I'm glad I was not off base on that. So, what are your thoughts?
I like it. Like Zaki, I'm not a huge fan of the New 52 collar on the Superman costume. Everything else is just right. I think the casting is perfect. We're getting, I think, the tallest ever Superman, by the way. I think David Cornsweet is, what, 6'7", something like that? I mean, he's a massive guy. And he really got ready for the role as far as putting on muscle mass and looking the part. And I think the costume is sharp. I think it's different enough that James Gunn is putting his signature on the Superman character. And it's just, again, it's a first photo. I'm dying to see this in action. And I'm kind of withholding any last judgment, any final judgment, until I do see it in action. But based on this, look, I'm a huge James Gunn evangelist. I think James Gunn is an incredible filmmaker and perfect for the DCU. So glad. In fact, remember, I think it was on this show a couple of years ago, I kind of forecasted that James Gunn would take over the DCEU, as it was called at the time. And so I'm a strong believer in his sensibility for all these things. So I'm just trusting in Gunn. That's what I'm doing. And so in that regard, I think this is going to turn out just fine.
I agree. Hey, Freak, what the hell's going on in the background? Is that an asteroid, or is that leaving Earth or coming to us?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard, we've heard the Lex Power suit thing too, which, by the way, as much as I'm excited about David playing the role, also Nicholas Hoult doing Lex Luthor is going to be, I think he's going to be outstanding as the role too as well. And I know David Cornsweet is obviously tall because Nicholas Hoult is freaking tall himself. So, and when they stand next to each other, David's taller than he is. So it's going to be a very tall cast. So, yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see what it's like with his Clark Kent walking around 6'5", but 6'6". It's tall. Yeah. Wow, that's an inch too taller than you.
Yeah, it's like 3 inches taller than me. 3 inches taller than you. I mean, I think we're around the same height, Rick, and is much taller than us. And usually once you get into the realm of 6'7", 6'8", it starts to look weird, but not with Cornsweet. He's carrying it well, I would say. Yeah.
I used to cater for the Dallas Mavericks after their practice for years, and they would come out, and I tell you, you're 6'3", you're taller than most people as you're walking around anywhere you're at for the most part. You're in a locker room full of NBA players. You feel like you're 3'4". Just want to throw that out there. It was a wild experience. And then Jason Kidd would walk up to you, who's like 6'4", 6'5", and on the court when he played and before he was coach, he looked like he was 4 feet tall because these guys 6'4" in the NBA is little. But anyway, no, I think he looks great. And I think we all sort of share the sensibility. Zaki, I think maybe you're the one who used that word, or Bob, whoever, forgive me, but I agree with that. I think that his love and passion for Superman will come through on this. I will say, and I've said this before, and Freak, tell me if you agree with this, that I think that this film has to work. If it doesn't, his DC slate is in a lot of trouble, in my view.
Oh, 100%. And it doesn't have to be $1 billion movie either. No. I mean, work just, good, moderate to on the good side of critical success too, as well. And just do what, like 700-800 million will probably be in that range, I think, or above. I think, like what the Batman did, around there. I think he'll be good to go at that point. Yeah.
Zaki, you agree with that?
I definitely agree. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, listen, I think we're all obviously looking forward to Superman and everything James Gunn is going to do. Where do we leave off on your list? You're at 4. What else you got? What else are you looking forward to, Zach?
My pie in the sky, which has been my look forward for several years, is at least one more Star Trek film starring Chris Pine and the rebooted cast, which the ball keeps advancing, it keeps moving ahead, but they say it's coming, so I'm whenever that comes, I hope it's coming.
Very cool. Bob, you're a Star Trek guy. You agree with that?
Yeah. Because I
or feel the same. I shouldn't say agree.
Yeah,
do you agree with Zaki's opinion?
Or
his feelings?
No, actually, I'm a big fan of the Kelvin timeline. I'm a little I'm raising an eyebrow over the Simon Kinberg project that was just announced, and so I'm not sure if that's the same. I don't think it's the same thing. I think that isn't Chris Pine and that crew is doing a separate Star Trek movie, or is it the same thing, Zaki?
No, it's two different things.
Okay. So, yeah, with the Simon Kinberg thing, my only question is I'm a little more tied to canon, I know, than Zaki is, but I'm wondering how they're going to weave this into what already exists as far as Enterprise goes, as far as the James Cromwell, Zephyr Cochrane, and how that was handled in First Contact, and how they're going to maybe redo that or revisit that. I'm not sure what the plan is yet, but we'll wait and see. But in the meantime, as long as there's more Star Trek, I'm going to be happy. So the more Star Trek, the better. We'll just wait and see how it all plays out.
I like Zaki's nodding his head like, yep. Freak, are you into Star Trek? I am not at all. I mean, I love that people are. I just never have been.
I am not like obviously Zaki and Bob are not on that level, but for sure, definitely. And every time I've watched it, I'm like totally into it. It's just that it's not like something I actually actively seek as much as those guys do. Yeah.
Well, I want to jump into your list, but just real quick, Zaki, is there anything else you just want to kind of add to yours, or?
I think we covered it.
Yeah, cool. All right, Freekbass, Joker, we know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's right. I'll get that out of the way. Even more after I watched Lady Gaga's Chromatical concert on Saturday night, which is, I just love Lady Gaga so. I mean, the longer she goes in her career, whether it be acting or her music career, which is funny. I was talking to my wife about how, so many people nowadays probably know her more as an actor than they actually do even a musician, just because how her careers thrive that way. So, and she went to the premiere of the Chromatica thing, and they asked her a little bit about Harley, and and she sounded pretty excited about it. But yeah, Folie à Deux, I believe, is how I pronounce it. I still can't I've seen the trailer, and of course I've watched the trailer probably 1,000 times, but I still, after watching I watched the first Joker again not too terribly long ago, and even with how they're doing the fantasy stuff, I still can't totally wrap my brain around how this is going to, it's either going to be genius or a total train wreck, and even if it's a train wreck, it's going to be genius because it's going to be an instant cult movie no matter what. So I'm just so excited for it. I don't know how
What's fascinating to me about the film, and I feel like I'm not alone in this, anecdotally speaking, of course, I've talked to enough people to gather this opinion, is I wasn't really, I respected the original, and it was kind of a taxi driver Joker, Black Label story that I respected, but I remember watching it going, that was pretty brilliant. I don't care if I ever see it again, though. That was kind of my feeling on it. And for some reason, I am borderline obsessed with this sequel concept, and it's something, it's drawing me in a way that a film that I could have taken or left after I saw it. Why do I care so much about the sequel? And I don't know, I can't even describe it, but whatever it is that Phillips is doing and the cast is doing and the marketing team is doing, advertising this thing, I'm intrigued, man, like in a way I haven't been in a long time. It's weird, and I feel like I'm not alone on this, I don't think.
You know what it is, Rick? I had a similar reaction because what I'm always seeking out with CBMs is something new, a new way of telling stories surrounding these characters. And that's what Todd Phillips has been able to do with Joker. Inject him into something that's kind of familiar, something that's kind of gritty, something that we haven't seen before, though, with Joker or any other comic book movie character necessarily. And it's especially the way with Joker 2. As you know, I liked the Zack Snyder movies because he was, in fact, trying to do something that was different from what Marvel was doing, not trying to reject what Marvel was doing, not rejecting that style, but say, well, okay, we're gonna plant our flag on this different kind of thing. We're gonna take it from a different angle. And I always admire that kind of ambition. So I think the more of that, I think better. The more variety in comic book movies will actually sustain them and help them to expand an audience, maybe pick up some people who hadn't considered these kinds of films before. And now that's interesting. Maybe I'll take a look at some of these other projects too. So that's all good to me.
Zaki, I think man, that just really resonated with me. What he said is that I've been trying to figure this out on the conscious level. Maybe that's just it. It's just so, at least it appears to be so unique, and it's a character that we've known our whole lives. That's why, right? What are your thoughts on this? And just kind of recap also on the original film. I can't remember what your thoughts were on it. Forgive me.
As far as Joker, I was skeptic when it was first announced. I was like, oh, they're never gonna, I was like, oh, what's a terrible idea? Oh, it'll never get made. And that was me for about a year on my podcast. And I watched it. I was like, hey, that was good. And yeah, I think just to echo Bob's point, I mean, that's the value of these types of characters. It's being able to say, look, everybody knows the Joker. How about we look at him from this angle instead of this angle and see what happens? And I think, I'm all about the shared universes. I like that we're getting that, but I also, I think that this is a great way of satisfying different needs, and I think you can really tap into the mythical significance of all of these characters and say, all right, given that we know Batman, we know the mythology, we can just put in Thomas Wayne, and without, everybody knows who he is. Everybody knows who his son is. That's what you can do with Batman and his universe, which is so separate from just about any other comic book character.
And that Bruce Wayne doesn't necessarily even have to become Batman, and he may not. Freak, I'm not interrupting your list, as we're dying to hear your other four, but because you're such a Joker fan, and we all love the character as well, I would argue it's the most badass comic book villain that's ever been created. Must be a wild ride for you right now, because just how much Joker we're getting, how much content we're getting, and just in live action alone, and it's not getting stale at all. I mean, it's not from my perspective anyway, and I don't think the masses. I mean, we jumped from, obviously there was a big jump from Jack Nicholson to Heath. That was 19 years, right? But after Heath, we get Jared Leto, then we get Joaquin Phoenix, and then we get what's the gentleman that with his cameo on Matt Reeves, and we'll get more of him for sure. How does it feel being a Joker fan? Are you satisfied? Are you worried about oversaturation, or where you at on that?
No, it's such a rich character. And then, we're going to get the Joker in the James Gunn universe too, as well, which is going to be interesting when he ended up casting it. And the cool thing about Joker is there's, just like Batman, I guess, is where what version of Joker you're going to get. Obviously the Matt Reeves went with almost like the disfigured kind of almost like maniac, psychotic Joker. Obviously Heath Ledger was that in a little bit less way, but I mean, again, it's such a rich character to begin with, and that's the beauty. That's one of the reasons that draws me to Joker. I mean, I've brought this up, I think, on the last time we were together on your podcast. I brought this up of like all the millions and millions of superhero movies that are being made. Only 2 Oscars have gone to actors playing the part of a superhero, and they're both the exact same character, Joker, both times, which is just shows you the richness of the character. So yeah, the one thing about Joker 2 that's fascinating to me also is Joker, the movie, the first Joker, it was obviously Joker and Batman and all that kind of stuff, but it was a little, Arthur Fleck is not in the comics as far as I know, that character's name. They were like, not, there was Arkham Asylum, and there was Thomas Wayne and all that stuff, but it was still kind of like, it could have been a great movie without it being Joker. It felt, there's a little bit of that, like they just used Joker as a way to kind of almost being a selling point, where it feels like Joker 2, obviously having the character of Harley Quinn, and that's going to be her name in the movie too. It's not going to be like some alternate name. They're leaning in even a little harder to the Batman folklore a little bit. You know what I'm saying? At least so far, what we're seeing, which I think is interesting. They're not trying to like shy away from the Batman aspect of it,
Correct. At least by name, right? So
yes,
we'll see. But that's
exactly.
that's the beauty of it. That's what Zaki and Bob were just echoing. Yeah, I'm excited. What else? What else you got, man? You got Deadpool and Wolverine. That looks fun.
Yeah, Deadpool and Wolverine. But the one that's coming up, I think the quickest, I think it's just in a few weeks, if I'm not mistaken, is season 4 of The Boys. I don't know if you guys
I haven't watched The Boys.
Yeah. Oh, you're kidding me!
I keep rewatching Breaking Bad thanks to you.
Oh,
and Bob.
Oh well, it's not that level, but it's pretty. Bob, do you watch The Boys? I wasn't sure if you do or not.
I've seen the first 3 episodes, and then I got distracted. I've got to get back into it. So
Homelander is one of the best characters. What about you, Zaki? You watch?
So good. Yeah.
Never seen it.
Oh, it's so good. The take on superheroes, like the gist of it is like if superheroes were obviously in our society today with social media and there's a lot of like, Trump-esque type things happening, especially now. I don't want to give any spoilers away, but it's like it's really plays in a modern day, like if superheroes were actually in our modern day society. It's really good. Special effects are great. It's obviously it's funny too as well, but it's crazy dark. Do not watch it around children. Like big fair warning. I mean, it's about as graphic as it gets. I mean, it's pretty intense sometimes, but on all aspects of graphicness. And but it's just such a great the cast is perfect. It's so good. So yeah, that season 4 comes up, and they've already approved season 5 already. So it's already great stuff.
I'm gonna cheat and throw in here that wasn't on my list, and now it kind of is the Wednesday season 2. Anyway, just
cheers on that.
And Christopher Lloyd's in it. Ooh, I can't wait. So
who's he playing?
I don't know.
Wow!
He just tweeted out the teaser trailer for it, and has his name as in the cast. But going back to The Boys, what platform is that on? Like, Wednesday's obviously going to be.
That's Amazon Prime.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's I can't reckon. And they always, when they release the new season, they always it's a weekly thing. They do the HBO thing where they just release it week by week, but they always release the first 2 or 3. For that initial, get you hooked for that season, and then you have to watch it weekly then after that. But just so good. The production value is like top notch. I mean, both Amazon and Apple, both of those for kind of being under the radar platforms for content. It's amazing the production value. Apple especially, is amazing the budgets that they must have for these things. I mean, The Boys is like, it's cinematic in terms of the production. It's not CW. It's very, very cinematic. It's pretty incredible.
Awesome. Sounds great.
Yeah.
What else you got? That's 3,
then
right?
yes, and then another series too is the Daredevil Born Again series. I think that comes out next year. Daredevil is my favorite Marvel character, and I absolutely love the Netflix version, and I was so glad when I don't know if you guys heard all the drama going on back, but they ended up reshooting almost the whole entire series because for some reason, I don't know why they wanted to get it away from the Marvel series and like almost not make it related at all. And then I guess the test screenings came back. I'm not really sure what happened, but they basically ended up they even recast some of the main characters from the Netflix series. And then they went back and brought all the original cast back so now it's basically season 4 of the Netflix series, which I don't know why they even like straight away from that in the first place. It didn't make sense, but yeah, so it's almost the whole thing's been reshot, and and I just it's perfect casting in my opinion. When he showed up in Spider-Man, or was that Far From or No Way Home, with the Matt Murdock had that little cameo in the beginning. Then I was excited. That was my favorite cameo in the whole thing, just because I was like, oh, they're going to be bringing back them back for Daredevil. So yeah, so Daredevil, I think that's going to be great. And now Disney, obviously with Deadpool, they're not squeamish about going hardcore R, obviously, which Daredevil, the Netflix series, not just mostly because of the violence. I mean, Wilson Fisk, Vincent D'Onofrio is one of the best villains we've seen in a very, very, very long time. Yeah.
Nice. I'm not the biggest Daredevil fan, not because by rejection, I just never really got into it. Zaki, Bob, are you guys into Daredevil at all? Comics?
Oh, yeah. I'm a huge Daredevil fan. One of my favorite characters across all the different universes. Yeah,
I need to dive because it's a fascinating character.
Yeah.
Zaki, what about you? Are you into Daredevil?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've got a complete run of volume 1 of the comic book series bound on my shelf right there.
Somebody on this panel, to mind, if I remember correctly, is kind of a Ben Affleck Daredevil apologist. No, am I wrong on that, or does everybody dislike that movie?
I don't think I've ever seen it. Yeah.
Oh.
I thought Affleck was okay. I think the movie has other issues that are non-Ben Affleck related.
Oh, I see. Okay, maybe I was wrong. All right, Freak, what else you got, buddy? You got one more.
Yes, and that would we were talking about Star Wars and movies, and that's the Mandalorian actually movie. Yeah. Which I think that's the next one on the docket for being released. I could be wrong on that. You guys would probably know better, that you're a little bit more hardcore Star Wars than I am, but I know that's the one I was hearing about. But I'd love to, obviously, like everybody here, I'm sure, just absolutely love the show. I love the fact that they're crossing it over into the film world. And I think of all the movies, just because The Mandalorian was so accepted by the masses and it was such an iconic thing, obviously with Grogu especially, I think that one, in my opinion, has the chance to really do some big numbers too at the bottom. There he is. Yep, I've got I've got one sitting right here too, right next to me as well.
Nice.
Yes. It's required. We're all sent them.
Yes.
You know, that's if you're a nerd, you get a Grogu for free. Disney just distributes them.
Yeah.
Well, Zaki sent them to us because he got 5,000 shit to his house. Remember? Because he gave a favorable review of the last.
All that shill money.
Hey, so Zaki, I want to tie in something to Freak's list. You talked about wanting Star Wars back on the big screen, and you took your boys to see the Phantom Menace. It's my opinion, gentlemen, that once the Mandalorian has a cinematic release, it's done on Disney Plus. You can't go backwards at that point, right? You can't do another season with that budget once it's a film, I don't think, right? So this is either the final story or the first of many movies that are going to come out that are surrounding this character. I just don't know if you can really, maybe as a cameo basis or something, but can they do a season 4 of The Mandalorian post a live action movie, especially one that does well?
That's a great point. I never thought of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is a question. I mean, maybe they can. I don't know. Zaki, what do you think?
I guess it depends to what extent the film performs. I mean, if it's like a reasonable, like a moderate success, they might be like, it might be safer to just keep doing it on television. If it's a blockbuster success, they might say, well, let's pull up our stakes and move it into the theaters.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be interesting too, because now we've got, legacy characters. We talked about Obi-Wan, obviously Anakin's been in Ahsoka. I would like to think that we're not done with those actors or those characters either. They deserve to be on the big screen again, in my view, especially how well they both have done in reprising those roles. Just in fact, Hayden Christensen's better than he was then.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Great list, Freak. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah,
Bob, what you got, man?
My number 5 is one that wouldn't have even been in the top 10 until an announcement this past week or two. I think it was last week. And that is the new season 2, or maybe, I don't know if it's season 2. It's Vision, the next Vision TV series on Disney Plus, which is now going to be show run by the great Terry Matalas from Picard season 3. And so because Terry is now involved in the Vision series, I'm totally on board with this. This is going to be a phenomenal season of television. You just know it going in because Terry's got the exactly right sensibility for these things. He's a fan of these things. I think these kinds of projects always do better when there's a fan at the helm guiding everything. They don't need to have fans directing every episode or even writing every episode, but as long as the showrunner is a fan and honors the characters and honors the universe, it's always going to be great. That's one of the things that was so great about Picard season 3, on top of being a phenomenal story, having, cinematic blockbuster level visual effects, that incredible cast. It was Terry's vision for that season that made it extra special, that obviously connected it to the TV series, that in fact, maybe even, if you were to break it down, you could actually make Picard season 3 into a movie trilogy. I've actually kind of done a thought experiment, like where would the end of the first movie be? Where would the beginning of the second movie be? And so on. because it was so well done. And now that you're applying the Terry Matalas vision to, pardon the pun, to the series vision to this character, it's going to build on the WandaVision success and how great that was, and then you multiply that times Terry Matalas. It's going to be a phenomenal series. I can't wait for that project.
Either one of you guys excited about that project?
Yeah, no, like Bob, I am now.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep. Yeah, cool.
Same thing. I absolutely love WandaVision so much in so many ways, and so I was hoping that story was going to continue. And now, because of exactly what Bob said, I'm more excited than I ever was. Yeah.
It's so cool how quickly these opinions or lists like this can change. I mean, this was all just in good fun anyway, but tomorrow something could drop and we're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about this. Anyway,
here's an honorable mention. This one isn't because it's not a comic book movie. I didn't put it on my list, but Severance season 2 is just around the corner. And if you haven't seen the first season of the show Severance on Apple TV, you've got to watch that series. It is one of the most mind-blowing things I've ever seen in the entire history of television or film or whatever. It examines existence from a memory perspective, and it does it in a really fun and quirky and odd way. Incredible cast, so strange and fascinating, and it really gets your brain working. Like you're okay, and it's not like you're necessarily figuring it out. I think you get a pretty good sense of what this universe is going in, but the whole idea is what happens if you don't remember when you're at work. When you go to work, you forget about your home life. When you leave work, you forget about your work life. And it becomes like you're two different people. You're your work person, your work persona, and your home life persona, your non-work persona. Oh my, you got to check this out. So season 2 is coming along, I think sometime in the next couple of months. And I'm so excited for that. Just wanted to throw that in.
No,
that's like a bonus 6th item on my list.
And I'm making notes in an endorsement like that. It's called Severance.
Severance, okay. Yes.
It's
Adam
incredible.
Incredible.
Incredible. I'm totally behind you, Bob. I love season 1 so much. Yeah, it's
fascinating.
Great.
Fascinating.
Zaki, have you dived into this?
I haven't seen it, but it's on my list.
Oh, it's now on mine. Yeah. There you go. All right, sir. What else you got?
Okay, Brave and the Bold. The James Gunn Batman project, which hopefully will happen. As we were saying before, Superman's going to determine everything that goes forward from there. So hopefully it will do well. Hopefully it won't suffer the same fate as Furiosa, which has nothing to do, I guess, allegedly lackluster box office for Furiosa really has nothing to do with the quality of the movie. I think we've entered this territory now where the success of a cinematic release is going to be based entirely on, well, do people really just feel like going to the theater this weekend or whatever, rather than, oh, that movie sucks and we're not going to go see that. So we're in a strange gray area, which I'm sure Zaki can speak more to, but I hope Superman, which is number 3 on my list, I'll just combine these two because they're kind of one depends on the other. And so I hope that it's one of those situations where the stars all align and you end up with like a Barbie or Oppenheimer kind of buzz around it, and that it actually elevates people, motivates people to go to the theater and see this movie, both Superman and Brave and the Bold for that matter. Yeah. And one, of course, one feeding into the next.
Yep. Zaki, we've talked about Robin in the past on BOF and other shows. What do you think about James Gunn's choice for Damian? For if it gets made, and I'm not trying to be pessimistic, I'm going to knock on wood because it's going to get made. When it gets made, win. Yeah. What do you think that means in terms of? Do you think that means that there's a Richard Grayson, a Dick Grayson in Matt Reeves' universe, or is he just going that route just because that's a wild choice? What do you think on that? Then obviously anybody chime in on this too, please.
I think the latter. You know, I don't think it says anything about the state of Robin or Robins in the Reeves verse. If I were to guess, I don't think we're going to get a Robin in the Matt Reeves verse, but I think the idea of Reeves has sort of carved out for himself. This is a youngish Batman in the early stages. So seeing Batman as a dad, that's a good way of sort of setting apart the DCU version. I've never been a big fan of Damian, but admittedly, I haven't read very much of him. But I think just the father son dynamic is something interesting. You know, mainstream audiences have never seen that as far as Batman. So yeah, why not?
Cool. Freak, what do you think? I know you're a big Batman fan. You think we're gonna get Robin in the Matt Reeves film?
I mean, Pattinson's been talked about it quite a bit in a lot of interviews. He's given his take what he hopes will happen. I obviously understand Pattinson's not calling the shots in terms of storyline and direction and stuff, but you always got to think that, you know, for him to even be bringing it up, it's been discussed in that, you know, amongst everybody, including Reeves. So I'm going to actually go against what Zaki said, and I think we are going to get a Robin. I think we're probably going to get it in the next film. Now, I don't know if it's going to be a direct Robin with the full outfit on, or if it's going to be more the, you know, the Nolan approach, where it's kind of like a, you know, a person that hasn't fully become Robin yet. That I'm not sure about yet. And I think on not only that, I think we're going to actually get Robin like in the comics, where he is not 17 Chris O'Donnell, 17, 18, 19 years old, but actually more like 12, 13 years old type situation.
Like I need a place to live. Why don't you get a job, dude?
Almost like Logan, you know, with Logan, you guys have all seen Logan, I'm sure, almost like, you know, Logan with that kind of approach to, and almost that kind of approach to the character too, as well. You know? Sure.
Now, Bob, coming back to your list and to you, you're, and I want to tie in the aesthetic thing. Are you excited about this James Gunn thing like I am? I love these interpretations we're getting of the Batman. That's why I think he's one of the best fictional characters ever written, if not the, because of how versatile he is. It's why the Joker's versatile. He is the yin to the yang. What has you most excited about James Gunn's comic booky, if you will, version of Batman? Is it because of the aesthetic and everything, or just because James Gunn? Or
well, it's because of what's come before it. Not only the Suicide Squad, but I'm also going to talk about Peacemaker here in a second. But on top of that, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I am still emotionally recovering from watching that movie over this past holiday break, and it was so goddamn good and had just everything that you could possibly want from one of these movies, and just the immense heart at the core of it. All of these tortured creatures in this crazy fucking lab. And it just blew me away. The storyline with them and their interactions, and Rocket escaping from that and having relationships with these characters, these friendships, which were so interesting and unusual and brave, I think, for a Marvel movie, because it was so utterly soul crushing. I mean, there's a sequence in that movie that I compare to like the season finale of 6 Feet Under, at that level of just emotional connection, where when you watch it, you can't help but to be touched by what you're seeing in a very profound way, in a way that sticks with you. So you combine that with the fact that the Suicide Squad, I think it was one of the best comic book movies made in this era, with Peacemaker, which is one of the best comic book TV series made in this era. It's difficult for me to imagine this universe failing because of the films themselves. If, as I said before, if something goes haywire, it's going to have nothing to do with the movies. It's going to have something to do with bad timing, or people resistant to going to movie theaters, or some other thing, that some other X factor that we can't quite anticipate, but which tends to happen quite often these days, with so many people adapted to the idea of watching these things on television at home rather than going to a movie theater. So that's a long answer to your question, but that's kind of what's feeding my anticipation for this. I just have a lot of admiration for James Gunn's ability to tap into not only what fans are expecting, but his own creative vision for these things.
Well, long answers are great when they're great answers. That was a great answer. That was a great answer. So I'll say this real quick before we dive right back into your number 4, wherever we're at, is that I was just sitting there, I just kind of had an epiphany. I've been a little concerned that Gunn was launching his DC universe of Superman, because it's a risky character on film in terms of how well received. The last time a movie was really, truly well received universally was probably Superman 2, let's face it, in the theater. And so because of that track record, to launch the DC, his new DCEU, whatever we want to call it, on the backs of Superman is a little bit of a gamble, right? Because it just is. But that might also be why we should have more confidence in this, because just like Bob has laid out, we've all mentioned, his track record, he being James Gunn, is pretty phenomenal. And so for him to have basically the balls to do this, to launch it on Superman, tells me he probably really, truly believes in this project. And that gives me a lot of confidence in this thing.
Yeah, same. And I think what we're going to get is the kind of Superman that a lot of people were hoping Man of Steel Superman would have been. And I'm not busting on that movie or
I love
the
that
sequels.
movie.
I love the Zack Snyder universe. But that said, I think a lot of people were disappointed because they didn't get more of the Christopher Reeve hopeful sort of Boy Scout Superman that we're all accustomed to. And I think we're going to see more of that. Maybe not an entirely swing to that exact thing, but I think we're going to see a lot more of that woven into Clark Kent, Kal-El Superman in this movie than we have probably since Brandon Routh, maybe since that movie. But I'm pretty sure that that's what we're going to see, because the fan anticipation for that sort of thing, the non-fan anticipation for that kind of a Superman to return to movie theaters is gigantic. And I don't think James Gunn's going to drop the ball on that.
Quickly, can I, about Superman, the one thing about that character too, and I, just like you had an epiphany, I kind of did right there too, Rick, is that the thing that I think is so scary about Superman is, this is the best way I can equate it. Pacino and Godfather. It's almost like Pacino did Michael Corleone so freaking perfectly that if today that movie was made with the exact same script and the best director in the world, whether it be Francis Ford Coppola or someone else, there's always going to be that comparison to Michael Corleone. I mean, it was like so timeless. And that's, Christopher Reeve is such the freaking goat on film as Superman. You know, I'm not saying, you know, and all, you know, and this is not saying, you know, I love Henry Cavill's and I love Zack Snyder's stuff too. You guys know I do. But Reeve, as we know, it's like, you know, Michael Jordan like level in terms of the portrayal of that character, especially in Superman 1 and 2. That's this, you know, where Batman's almost like more like a James Bond kind of vibe, where you can, you know, it's kind of set itself up to be that type of character. Like, you know, I love Daniel Craig, I love Sean Connery, what, you know, we can do like all those type of things, where Superman's almost like, again, that Reeve just hit it so out of the ballpark in so many ways, and all the stuff we've seen. And, you know, you guys know that had that movie getting ready to come out too, and I think it's September, you know, the whole tribute to Christopher Reeve as Superman. So, because he is the GOAT. And so that's I think the thing that's just the toughest nut to crack, that I'm fascinated to, and James Gunn understands that too. I mean, everything I'm saying, James Gunn would probably say the exact same thing. That's what's great about him. But it's going to be like, to be able to crack that ceiling, or that glass ceiling, or whatever you want to word, of the Christopher Reeve. He just casts such a huge shadow over that character on film, you know?
He does. And, you know, Zaki, and I'm going to you because you're such a huge Superman fan. The sort of irony, if you will, of all this is the very first live action Superman, at least in cinema, was a tribute and almost quite literally a sequel to the Richard Donner films, and it didn't work. So then you had Snyder's Superman, and I love Man of Steel, but just for the masses, it didn't work. So you know what I mean? It kind of swung both ways, and it was a miss. Now we could talk about the quality of the films. We could talk about Superman Returns having the little boy, and you know, there's things that we can dissect. But in your view, what does James Gunn have to do with this Superman for it to just sort of work? You know?
Well, first of all, I would say the greatest trick the devil pulled was convincing people Superman Returns was a sequel or tribute to the Richard Donner Superman. I think that's the problem right there, is he basically brought in the John Williams theme and used some CGI of Marlon Brando. Other than that, Superman Returns is not tonally similar to any of the Christopher Reeve movies. It's dour. The costume is morose. I mean, just everything about it, right? So So it's funny that the fact that it underperformed is not surprising, because it's a downer of a movie. And yet, you know, there was sort of, for a minute there anyway, there was this sense of like, oh, Bryan Singer, he can do no wrong. Turns out he can do a lot of wrong, as it turns out. So everyone was very wrong about that. But Warner Brothers took all the wrong lessons, right? So it's like, oh, well, obviously, bright and happy Superman, quote unquote, which Bryan Singer did not make, didn't work. So now let's get in Christopher Nolan and do like a dark and hardcore Superman, which it's like, well, hey, how about watch the Richard Donner film, and figure out what it was about that movie that worked, because what worked about that movie is not in evidence in Superman Returns. And boy, I'll tell you, Brandon Routh, he sure tried, because it's not his fault. And we can see on when they brought him back on the CW for the Crisis, when he got to play like an actual Superman in the vein of Christopher Reeve, he did great at it.
He's great.
So I think if I were to guess, I think Gunn is smart enough to know that, you know, I'm confident that he's going to be able to kind of track the middle ground in terms of having sort of the spectacle of what Zack Snyder brought, but also hone in on the earnestness of the character, which Christopher Reeve did so well. You know, I saw somebody on Twitter, it was a thing that went viral a couple weeks ago, where Superman isn't about what you would do with powers. It's what if somebody with powers was good? And that's what it's all about, right? I mean,
that's right.
I think you know, there's just something about David Cornsweet, man. I got a lot of optimism just because he just seems like he, you know, even before having gotten this gig, he just seems like a kind of an earnest goofball of a kind that I believe is this farm boy who ends up becoming the greatest hero in the world, you know?
Yeah. Well, and Bob, to come full circle to that, in terms of James Gunn and his sensibilities, essentially what he's saying is that we trust that James Gunn's going to get that balance. Obviously, you agree with that.
Yeah, I think James Gunn has this ability to, and we saw it on display in the Suicide Squad, this ability to balance heart with just pushing the envelope of what you can get away with in one of these movies. Because the Suicide Squad is pretty rank. I mean, there's an entire sequence in that movie where the Suicide Squad just goes through and just brutally assassinates a whole bunch of good guys in the middle of this jungle, and in the most brutal possible ways you can imagine. It is an unbelievable sequence, and then that balances out with Ratcatcher and the background with her dad, and just all these things going on at the same time. And then we got so much more depth with Peacemaker in the series as well. It's just an incredible balancing act that, quite honestly, I don't know how the hell he does it. I don't know how you're able to create something that has that degree of just over-the-top trauma-level violence balanced out with heart and interesting characters and backstories and interactions, and the you know, the chemistry behind with all the actors playing these bizarre characters is stellar. Polka Dot Man and his mom. I mean, good God, he pulled that off. I mean, it didn't do extraordinary numbers in the box office, but once again, we're in that time where may not be the movie that's affecting that, but God damn it, he really. I think the Suicide Squad is easily in my top 5 favorite comic book movies of all time. So yeah, really excited about that. But
nice.
Yeah.
Then you've still got one more, right? Or is that 5?
Oh yeah. I have 2 more, in fact. Okay. Fantastic Four, I think, is easily number 2 on my list, if not number 1 on my list, because this one is shaping up to be super interesting. They're doing something unusual insofar as they're going back in time a little bit. It seems like it's going to be more of a period piece set in the, I want to say, late 60s, early 70s, maybe, or squarely in the 60s. And Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards is going to be phenomenal. The guy from The Bear, who was also in HBO's Girls as Ben Grimm. The casting is spot on, and I'm just so excited for these characters. And I'm mainly excited for these characters to be in a project that has a strong potential to work, because Fantastic Four has not in the past worked out so well cinematically. And I think now they've done enough to know what not to do and what to inject into probably the marquee characters in the entire Marvel universe, comic books or movies. So I'm very excited about these characters, not just because I love the characters going in, but also because of how they're going to be treated this time.
Love it. Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Fantastic Four and Peacemaker season 2 is the thing that I'm most excited about. I
I'm stoked
really responded well to that. That first season was such a great season of television, and
it didn't stop.
Surprising, yeah.
It didn't even tap the brakes. It was.
And John Cena is such a huge surprise. I mean, I went into the Suicide Squad not really knowing a whole lot about John Cena. I'm not a wrestling fan, so I wasn't really aware of him as a wrestling persona. I had no idea what he could do acting wise, and then in the Suicide Squad, realizing that he was doing a lot of improv. James Gunn says that John Cena is maybe the greatest comedic improviser in all of movies right now. And you can see that on screen, especially in Peacemaker, where he was able to do this whole run where he was listing names, like free associating names in this one scene, and they cut it all down for the scene itself. But if you look at the deleted scenes from Peacemaker season 1, him going through, I forget even the context of it, but he started rattling off all these references to, he like connected Joe Montana and Joe Montana, and then went on. It was like doing this whole stream of consciousness thing. That is, if you know anything about improv, and I'm sure you do, Rick, it is an incredible feat to be able to do. It's like a magic trick when you see improv really well done, and John Cena can nail it. So to have him at the core of this fascinating group of characters in this odd universe with the James Gunn sensibility is phenomenal. And I'm really excited to see how he weaves them into the new universe, because they're going to be the only carryovers from the DCEU into James Gunn's DCU, Peter Safran, James Gunn. And so in that regard, it's going to be fascinating to see. And I've got this weird fantasy. I just got as a Peacemaker fanboy, I hope, what is it? Mitzelplek? Is that how you pronounce it? Cause I always mispronounce Mr. Mitzelplek. Is that it? Okay. Yeah. I will never get that in a million years as far as pronouncing that. I want to see that character interacting with Peacemaker. For some reason, I'm dying. I want to see like the Suicide Squad versus Mr. What is it, Zaki? Mr.
Mixes-Piddlick.
Okay, there you go. Why did I think it was Mitzelplek? Wasn't it in Super Friends? I want to say it was Mitzelplek in Super Friends.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cool.
But anyway, so that's it. That's the top of my list. Peacemaker season 2, absolutely.
So I hope the rumor is true. Get real quick to your Fantastic Four thing. I don't know if you guys have heard this rumor about that Cillian Murphy is thinking about doing Dr. Doom.
Wow.
Ooh,
well, that dude can do anything.
That'd be great.
Okay, Bob, any other thoughts or anything on your list, sir? Or?
I don't think so. I know that as soon as we're done, I'm going to think of like 4 things that I know to talk about. Yeah.
I know we were talking about Superman. I just wanted to add one thing,
please,
if you don't mind. Superman and Lois is ending in this coming season. There's going to be a 10-episode final season, and I feel like this is a show that doesn't get talked about nearly enough. Tyler Hoechlin has been an amazing Superman, honestly, fantastic, and he's carved a place all for himself, doing the Superman as a dad storyline. It's a terrific show that now that it's ending, I hope people will check it out, because it's going to be whatever it is, 40, 50 episodes, whatever. And it's like, it's just solid.
It's fantastic. I love it so much, Zaki. It's fantastic. And that someone posted the other day that scene when he's Clark Kent and he goes in, remember the one kid or the one father hit his son and he walks into the diner, and it's one of the best and it wasn't the Christopher Reeve goofy Clark. It was the first time I've seen someone do Clark Kent with a fresh take, and it was done so well. And he stayed in Clark mode. He didn't, it was just, I'm a huge fan of that show and Tyler Hoechlin and who plays Lois Lane? What's the actress name? Talking about
Bitsy Tulloch.
That whole thing with the cancer thing and everything. It was it's just amazing.
It's been a great show.
It really has.
The first time I saw him was in a guilty pleasure film. It's garbage, but I find it hilarious. It's Hall Pass. and he's in that film, and he hasn't, you know, Jennifer Aniston's character has an affair with him or whatever. But I thought, okay, he's a pretty boy, cheesy LA guy, whatever, and he's not. He is a very in-depth guy.
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, he is. Okay, it is Memorial Day, which means I'm going to be bombarded. In fact, I hear a front door opening right now. I'm going to have teenagers in this house, so I'm going to burn through my list so we can get out of here, because otherwise this show is going to be all fucked up in about 5 minutes anyway. And you guys are far more interesting and important, so that's good. So number one, Star Wars. The Acolyte, I'm very excited for, but Zaki, I will say, I don't want to put anything negative out. I think it looks really good. I'm excited for it. I like the era that it's in. It's out of the Skywalker zone, but it doesn't look cinematic like I want it to. And I think I'm just with you. It's not anything wrong with it. It's just I'm ready for Star Wars to be back in cinema. I just am. And you can tell that it's not, and that's okay. But I'm ready. And maybe once we have a balance again, it won't be as jarring to me. But right now I'm just kind of like, yeah, this looks good, but I'm ready for a movie. But with that said, I'm excited for everything that's coming. Star Wars, the Freak, you mentioned Mandalorian. Bob, you and I, we all bounced around on the Rey film.
Yeah.
It's the greatest time to be a Star Wars fan, and I'm sorry to break the bad news to online fandom, but if this is what dead means, then I hope that's how I die, because it's like more alive than ever. But so there's that. I'm really pumped for the Penguin show on, and I say that's where my Mesquite, Texas comes out. Penguin, the Penguin. Man, that Texan comes out. That teaser trailer and that we got for that show, that looks phenomenal. And Colin Farrell is phenomenal in the role. And I'm safe to say, does anybody see that footage and think that this is not going to be something special? I would have trusted.
Just jumping in real quick, the makeup effects on Colin Farrell are so well done, and it made me think of the photos that have been going around the last couple of days of Billy Zane as Marlon Brando.
Oh my gosh!
And it looks crazy. He looks exactly like Marlon Brando. And I think there's some sort of new technology for the prosthetics, the face prosthetics, to make these people look seamlessly like the person they're portraying, where you can't tell that it's makeup anymore. And it's certainly that way with Colin Farrell. And oh my God, another high watermark for whatever they did to Billy Zane to make him look like Marlon Brando. And
he looks just like Marlon Brando and Billy Zane at the same time. It's the biggest mind F on the planet. It's incredible. But the Penguin show, I think the bridge it's going to have between the Batman and the sequel is going to be paramount to the next story. But I also think it's going to be isolated and its own. It's going to have its own personality, its own. I mean, here's a good example of something. It's small, but I think it could lead to other things. Colin Farrell's in this interview when the Batman's coming out. He's like, they go, you get the top hat and the monocle and the cigarette's like, no, well, I'm still forming the character. I don't know if they're going to let me smoke. I beg for anything, just a cigar or something. And there's a close-up of him in the Penguin trailer because it's Max, right? And he's got his cigar. I just thought, how cool is that? Because I saw the interview where he wanted it so badly, and he's got it. So I just feel like he's slowly morphing into the Penguin that we know and love in the comics as well. So I'm excited for that transformation. And then obviously I'm excited for the whole Matt Reeves universe, Superman, DC. We talked about all that. That's on my list. Freak, Bob, I mentioned this on the last show we did together. I know you guys share this passion. Huge Van Halen fan, and I'm very excited for Alex Van Halen's book. And I'm going to read that thing cover to cover because he's not a very outspoken person and hasn't really talked publicly at all since his brother died. And so as a fan, I just really want to dive into that book and learn more about the brothers and them growing up together and their musical journey and all that stuff. So we'll have to do a separate show on that. Yes, sir.
I was just going to say real quick about the Van Halen very quickly. I saw a clip that I've never seen before. You guys all know who Billy Sheehan is, bass player Billy Sheehan. He's on tour right now with the Winery Dogs, and he was saying how he got asked 3 times to be the bass player of Van Halen, and not later day Van Halen. He got asked once right after Women and Children First. And Eddie and David both asked him, and he, out of respect for Michael, because him and Michael were friends, he's like, I'm just not ready to basically do that. Basically, that was the first time, and I guess there were 2 other times after that, which blew me away. That during even that period, that's superstar period for them, that was in the mix. I don't know if that'll be in the book or not, but that was interesting to hear.
So
plus,
go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Plus, I don't think Billy Sheehan wanted to be mixed out of the songs like Michael Anthony was in so many.
Well, there's that too as well. Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
That's right. Well, at least you can hear the bass, unlike Jason Newsted and Justice for All. But we're going deep. This is bass talk here. But I'll say this: I recently saw an interview with Sammy Hagar, and it turns out that he and Eddie had talked before Eddie died and rekindled their friendship, and which I think is cool. And obviously, he was still talking to Dave and his brother because they were all still, the band was still the band. But Michael Anthony and Eddie never talked. They never reconnected. And he said, I got closure by reconnecting with Wolf recently. So it's like he reconnected with Sammy and didn't even reconnect with his founding member. It's kind of crazy. So maybe we'll get more. There's something there that's just, it's not just that he played with Sammy and that pissed them off. There's something else going on there, which is crazy. Okay. So I'm going to end my list on this. 1980s Eddie Murphy is so and it's part of my DNA. Some of the best comedies ever made, from Trading Places to the first two Beverly Hills Cop to Harlem Nights, Coming to America, the first one, etc. Obviously, the man's career, and he's brilliant. He's a brilliant actor. He's a brilliant comedian, but obviously, he's not the same guy that he was in 1983 or even 1990, for that matter. And that's okay. The only problem with his career that I've had is when he's revisited his franchises that represented that period in his life. And well, Beverly Hills Cop 3, for instance, is one of the worst sequels in the history of cinema. It's empirically a bad movie. It's not funny. It's terrible. What I like about the Eddie Murphy that we get right now in 2024 is he's a lot more in tune with his overall career, right? He's not trying to be he was the dad for so long and was really walking on eggshells in terms of, that's why he went from, raunchy comedy to Dr. Dolittle and things of that nature, and Shrek and things that he did brilliantly. I mean, come on. I mean, think about him in Shrek alone. I mean, it's insane. What I'm so excited about this Beverly Hills Cop 4 called Axel that's coming out on Netflix is that he wants to end the franchise on a high note. And have you guys seen the trailer for this thing? It just dropped a couple of days ago. The brand new one that shows a lot more footage than the teaser. It looks like a blast. And all I want this thing to be, I want a popcorn and sitting on my couch, and I just want to smile for a couple of hours. If I laugh out loud a couple of times, even better. And just have an enjoyable, maybe a send-off to Axel Foley. And that's why I have that on my list, because it's nostalgic, yes, but it's also redemption at the same time. So there's my Beverly Hills Cop 4 spiel. Anybody else give a damn about this movie?
I'm excited for it.
Looks good, doesn't it?
It does. I'm
looking forward to it. Yeah. And look at the cast. We've got John Blake in it. Aforementioned John Blake.
Bronson Pinchot's in it too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. And then Kevin Bacon's in it.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Watch the trailer, freak. It looks really fun.
Yeah, I will, for sure.
Yeah. So I'm gonna end it on Beverly Hills Cop 4. But I think that the theme here is that I think Superman and Star Wars are kind of the collective thing we can wrap our arms around. But I do find it interesting, just real quick before we bounce, no one here mentioned Beetlejuice?
Oh, yeah.
No, what do you guys think of that? I mean, I'm excited about, I think Wednesday is the best thing Tim Burton's done in a long time. But Zaki, what do you think about this Beetlejuice sequel? Are you excited for it at all?
I wouldn't say I'm not excited. I enjoy the first Beetlejuice. I don't luxuriate in it. So it's been long enough now that I'm like, I'll check it out. And for me, it's kind of like Michael Keaton doesn't need to do this. And so obviously there was something here that brought him back, and that's what interests me. Because they've been trying since forever to do something, in the Beetlejuice universe, the Juiceverse, and this is the thing. So, and I know people who've seen it, who've been complimentary of it, who I trust. So there you go. I have no reason to think I won't end up enjoying it.
I just want him to have a little bit more of a send off to a character like that in that time period in his career, because I feel like, man, he was just so cheated with everything with his return as Batman. The Flash, I still love that movie, but it just it flopped, and then we didn't get to see. I mean, tell me we get to see some of this Batgirl footage one day. I mean,
I think I really do at some point. Yeah, I think so. On like, Max or something like that, of course. Yeah, I don't know about at the theater, but yeah.
Sure. Okay.
See, I got to be honest. I don't feel cheated with what we got of him in that movie. I'm like, I said that at the time. I was like, if this is the last we ever see of him, I feel like he got a lot to do. If that's the death of that Batman, I think it's a good death. And he brought it. He wasn't just showing up. I felt like everything we got of him was like a gift. It was a gift I never in a million years thought we'd see.
I do agree with that. The only thing I would say that I think the difference in our perspective on it is because I know that he was in the Batgirl and it was scraped, and I know there were bigger plans, and that's the only thing. And it wouldn't be so hard if I didn't see some of the damn pictures, the stills from the film. Like, he's standing in front of the car. It looks amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey,
right,
quickly, Rick, what, to finish up, and you brought it up a little bit earlier, and this has been making the rounds on social media the last few days. I've seen so many discussions about it, about the theater thing, because that's what we're all here basically talking about. And Zaki, maybe you're the best person to answer this. Are we in the final throes of movie theaters? I mean, like Furiosa, I didn't think it was going to be, it was going to be $1 billion movie, but it was a little bit shocking, the numbers that it did over the weekend on a Memorial Day weekend. So, and I'm sure the film's great too, from what I've all heard. So, any thoughts on, people forecasting the doom of theaters? I mean, we heard this after COVID, but it seems even more, we're hearing it more now.
So first of all, I think rumors of theatrical demise are greatly exaggerated. People have been forecasting the death for a long time. I don't think theaters are ever going to go away. I think overspending on movies is going to go away, and I think that's a good thing. In terms of Furiosa, which I should stipulate, I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to be watching it in the next couple of days. I expect I'll enjoy it. But I remember when it was announced, I was excited. But as the time moved on, and we're now 10 years almost past Fury Road, and I saw the budget, and I was like, it never made sense to me, because I was just like, there was a window to make this movie, and it was probably about 2 to 3 years after Fury Road came out. So all of the doom and gloom does not surprise me, because this was not a movie that was going to be a hit given how much they spent. It just wasn't. It doesn't mean it's not a good movie. I expect that it will be, because it's George Miller, and I think George Miller is a genius. I think he's a genius filmmaker. But I think there should be a shift towards things that people are going to be more interested in. People are like, oh, Fall Guy flopped. And I'm like, oh, you mean a movie starring Ryan Gosling, who has never carried a blockbuster, based on a TV show from the early 80s that most people don't remember? Why are we surprised at this? Why did they spend as much as they did? A lot of this stuff, they got to pull it back. Look, Planet of the Apes is doing just fine in theaters right now. People are going to show up, but it's all about getting your spending accordingly. I think if we move away from this mentality of, oh, we got to have 5 movies in a year that each make $1 billion plus, we have to get away from that mentality. We have to allow for there to be a wide spectrum of what we consider successes. Theatrical is going to be fine. Again, there's nothing like the theatrical experience, and it's changing, and that's a good thing. But I don't think it's ever going to go away. Sorry, that's a lot.
No, that's great.
No,
that's great.
It's a great way to end the show, but I'm going to say, you ask a professor to come on the show, they'll sneak in a Mark Twain reference and don't think I didn't hear it, buddy. All right. I know we did some plugs at the top of the show, but Bob, where can we find you? Then obviously anything else you want to plug, please do, sir.
It's right there on the screen, bobcescashow.com. That's my podcast Patreon page. You can support my show there. Also, everywhere you get your podcast, the Bob Cesca Show, etc. So thank you, Rick.
Bob, thanks as always, my friend. Freak, we find you with millions of people every night on TikTok.
Yeah, I'm on the TikTok machine every night. TikTok at Freekbass. That's FREKBASS, and releasing a new single every month. So you'll see me all the same places that we see you guys at. Yeah, mostly.
Love it. Thanks again, buddy, as always.
Of course.
Zaki, one of my original podcast friends. Love you dearly, buddy.
Thanks.
Thanks for being here. What you got going on?
Well, you can read my reviews and commentary pieces at the San Francisco Chronicle, also at the Wrap and IGN. Listen to the Movie Film Podcast. We just dropped our commentary track for the original Mad Max from 1979. And I also host the Nostalgia Theater Show, which coming soon, I have an interview with William Sadler from Die Hard 2 and The Shawshank Redemption and a whole bunch of other stuff. Legendary actor. The Grim Reaper in the Bill and Ted movies.
Very, very cool. Well, I'm Rick Shew from Friends for Work. We really appreciate you listening, and happy Memorial Day. This really is a very significant day. So for all the families that are mourning people that have lost loved ones overseas or in wars, bless you and have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks.